taking I'm taking his.
I've got my
You're good. You don't need
printouts.
anyone to.
Hey, Noah, I think somebody signed up. Okay.
Maybe I'll follow along.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, we ready? All right, we'll call the May 3rd meeting of the Boiling Springs Town Council to order at 6:32. The next item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. And this is as amended with the addition of Police Week proclamation on item number 6. So there'll be 2 proclamations on item number 6, Public Works and Police. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as listed with the amendment?
Make a motion, we adopt the agenda as amended.
Second motion.
By Councilman Thomas, seconded by Councilmember Green. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Passed unanimously. Okay, the next item, we will open the floor for public comment. And I'd like to note that comments pertaining to rezoning will be taken at public comment time when each application is being considered. So do we have anyone that would like to address the board other than zoning? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. So, adoption of the minutes. You have the minutes from the April 5th council meeting. Do we have any suggestions for corrections? April 5th council meeting. Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
A motion to approve the April 5th meeting minutes as written.
Okay, Councilmember Edwards, motion.
Second.
Councilmember Gant, second. Any discussion? Okay, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor by stating aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. So passed unanimously. Thank you. The next item we have on the agenda is Gardner Web stock appreciation. So I'll turn that over to.
We need to do the closed session minutes as well.
Okay, hold on one second. Councilmember Thomas has a question about the closed minutes. The closed minutes were included with the minutes from April the 5th.
You don't need a separate motion or anything?
No,
Okay.
no. Mr. Saldo, would you like to clarify?
So the statute, as I understand it, doesn't require closed session minutes to be made public. Normally you have a second set of closed session minutes for y'all to approve and be on record in my office. But since y'all didn't take action in closed session or there was an extensive discussion, we don't need anything other than what's prepared for the public.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Saldo. And I should have made that clear from the beginning, my mistake. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, Gardner Web stock appreciation. So I'll turn that over to Justin.
Thank you, sir. I know we all have talked a lot about Webstock since it happened, but this is our first official town council meeting since the event. Haven't had nothing but positive comments. I think it was a great event, even for the cooler weather that we had. So I think we're happy all around with it. So I wanted to invite Dr. Downs and Dr. Villarose here tonight for a brief recognition to show our appreciation. So we have something for you. If y'all want to come up, we'll do a brief little presentation. So the council room here was the green room for the bands that day. And laid out in the green room, we had several of these posters and had all the bands sign them. So we wanted to have them framed and presented to you all. So I'll let Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Litton present them there.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And say it for a picture. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. You want to hold one too?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to next year and the year after that and the year after that.
I think Webstock should be referred to as the first annual Webstock.
That's right. But unless the council has any other comments, that's all I had, sir.
Okay, we'll recognize Mr. Evans from Gardner Webb if he has any comments.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Couple quick updates in addition to the Webstock. Tomorrow, May the 4th, insert the witty pun about Star Wars there. At 4 o'clock in the Tucker Student Center, we have a first time in Gardner Webb history. A local Shelby student is has qualified for the NCAA regionals in golf. Zach Byers, not sure if anybody's aware of him or has met him before. But the first time in Gardner Webb history, and tomorrow at 4 o'clock we find out where he'll go to play. So admission's free, refreshments will be served, but we do want to invite folks to come out and celebrate a first time in the history of the university and also the success of a local student. In addition, just a heads up, graduation is Friday and Saturday, so you may see the increase in traffic. Hopefully you see an increase in business and patrons in those stores. Friday will be a large celebration. And then Saturday will be the smaller department-based celebrations. Thank you for your Webstock partnership from all measurements and our side as well. That was a success. And then if you haven't heard, I'm not sure if you haven't, why you haven't, but we do have a new logo. So if you get the opportunity to come over, buy some new Gardner Webb gear, make sure you represent the new Bulldog and help us get that message out. So if there are no questions, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda, we have two proclamations, and I propose that we read through both of them before calling for a motion unless there are any opposition from council. Okay? The first one is National Public Works Week, May 15th through the 21st, 2022. Whereas the town of Boiling Springs appreciates those who choose to serve for the betterment of the town, and whereas public works services are an integral part of the services that the town provides to its residents, and whereas the public works services of maintaining of streets, buildings, grounds, solid waste collection, and wastewater treatment are vital to the health, safety, and comfort of town residents. And whereas it requires skill and dedication of public work employees to maintain these vital town services. And whereas the town of Boiling Springs has a department of hardworking and dedicated public works employees. And whereas the town seeks to attract and retain talented public works employees. Now, therefore, the Boiling Springs Town Council hereby designates the week of May 15th through the 21st, 2022, as National Public Works Week, and further extends appreciation to our Public Works Department for the vital services they perform on behalf of town residents. Proclaimed this third day of May 2022. All right, the second proclamation is National Police Week, May 15th through 21st, 2022. Whereas the town of Boiling Springs appreciates those who choose to serve and protect for the betterment of the town. And whereas in 1962 passed H.J. Res. 730, which authorized the President to proclaim May 15th of every year Peace Officer Memorial Day and the week it falls on as National Police Week. And whereas the police officers of America, including our own in Boiling Springs, have worked devotedly and selflessly on behalf of the citizens they serve, regardless of the hazard to them, and whereas our police officers stand guard to protect and serve each day and night. Whereas the town of Boiling Springs has a police department of hard-working and dedicated men and women. Now, whereas the town owes a debt of gratitude to our police officers. Now, therefore, the Boiling Springs Town Council hereby designates the week of May 15th through the 22nd, 2022 as National Police Week, and further extends our appreciation to our police department for their honorable and faithful service they perform on behalf of town residents. Proclaimed this 3rd day of May, 2022.
We'll do a Public Works picture first, so if Public Works wants to come up, we'll present that certificate and take a picture.
Come on, well.
Police is next. You want to get in here? All right, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just one more note on those. We'd like to make that a yearly tradition, and we'll get a nice plaque to hang those in the lobby where we can swap them out every year where that's proclaimed. So,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. All right, the next item on the agenda is adoption of the 2022-23 strategic plan. Now, this is the plan that we developed at our recent retreat with staff and council. So you have the plan in front of you, which you should be pretty well familiar with it. And we would like to consider a motion to adopt the strategic plan.
I'll motion to adopt the 2022 to 2023 strategic plan as presented.
All right, Councilmember Edwards, motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Councilmember Thomas with a second. Any discussion on the plan?
I'd just like to say that, you know, sometimes I think when we bring something up and we seem to move through it fairly quickly, that I'm not sure the other council members have spent quite some time prior to the meeting going through the plan. So it's not something that we just, you know, just vote on and without studying. I spent several hours going through it. Went through it 2 or 3 times. I think it's a very good plan. I think it's very well presented, and I think it's a good plan for the town and gives direction to the staff as to what the desires of the board are. So not quite as quickly as it appears here. So, sometimes I think maybe we give that appearance that we just quickly move through something that we've, like I say, I'm sure all of us have spent quite some time prior to the meeting studying it, so.
Yes, I absolutely echo that, Tommy. 3 pages does not do it justice,
No.
but it does highlight the intent and our priorities very well. There was a lot of thought that went into this, and it will be our guiding document for how we proceed with future budget discussions and strategic efforts here.
Yeah, and we all remember too, that day, we were there for quite a few hours with intense, details, but all that we discussed. So there was a lot of time and effort put into this planning.
I will concur, it was a lot of time and effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to add that at our planning retreat, when we did have a lot of input, I think the staff came back and did an excellent job of putting what we directed and what we discussed that day into the plan. So I think they'll be commended for putting that into a workable plan. I'm very pleased with it myself. Let's just get her done.
Exactly.
Any further discussion? We'll call for a vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passed unanimous. Okay, our next item is approval of the developer recruitment package. The options here that we're looking at is motion to approve or review for 1 month and consider adopting in June. A lot of this information is, we've discussed for some time, but the actual completed packet is relatively new.
And for that reason, I make the motion that we review it for 1 month and adopt it in June. I've looked through it, and I'm very well pleased with it, but I have not had the time to go through it like I would like, so I would make a motion that we review it for a month and bring it back in June.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion from Councilmember Green, second from Councilmember Edwards. Any further discussion?
I think it's a great idea. This is what we've been talking about, of having a document to be able to recruit business and to retain business. And I'm glad to see it in print, and I saw it on social media today that we were trying to get citizen input for boards and committees, and that's my hope, is that we continue to push forward and to make this a reality, just like the strategic plans.
I think it's important for the public to understand too, and this will be available obviously on our website with our meeting minutes, but there's a nice long summary here of the intent and how all the information was collected. And I want to just highlight some of this was, residential and commercial developers to showcase the assets and amenities of the town of Bowling Springs. I think that's a very important key statement right there. Our staff, as always, have worked very hard to reach out to Small Business Center at Cleveland County Economic, or CCCC?
Cleveland County Community College.
Okay. Cleveland County, also the Cleveland County
no.
Economic Development Partnership and Gardner Webb for feedback. So
Not
this
Cleveland.
is not just a thumb in the air by our staff trying to put together a nice little marketing package. They did a lot of due diligence in collecting information and trying to be concise but to the point. So I commend them for that. But I am also with Tommy. It's like I would like to chew on this a little bit more and take this from my developer experience background and see how I would look at it and provide that feedback as well.
Further discussion? Okay, motion and second is on the table to review for 1 month and adopt in June. All in favor by stating aye? Aye. Opposed, no. None, it passed unanimous.
There is one too many Cs there, in CCCC.
Okay, the next item is public hearing for rezoning request 242 North Main Street. So I'll open the public hearing for 242 North Main Street rezoning, and we will begin with the staff report.
Thank you, sir. So parcel 1120 is .42 acres located at 242 North Main Street. It's just south of La Bella Vita, right next to it. The current zoning classification is B1 commercial. The surrounding zoning is B1 commercial and R10 residential. The request tonight is to rezone it from B1 to B2. So a little bit of background. When we revised our UDO last year, we had B1 and B2 in it, and a lot of the uses were the same, but we changed B1 to be more focused on our downtown core, so we made it much more restrictive than B2. Really, the vision was to have it fall in line with the downtown overlay district that was also established in the UDO. So we have this case, and then we actually have another agenda item later to discuss the sort of the future of B1 zoning, because we've had some questions and comments about uses that were previously allowed in B1 that are no longer allowed in B1 because of that change in the UDO. So that is why this request is before you tonight. And really, I wanted to be clear that the request is just for the change from one district to another. Mr. Edwards' goal is to open a tattoo parlor there, but you all are considering rezoning it from B1 to B2, which will not solely allow a tattoo parlor. In order for him to do that, he'll have to go to the Board of Adjustment to seek a variance, and that'll take place in a couple of weeks. He's already turned in the paperwork for that. But really, you all are just determining whether that district aligns with the surrounding districts and the intended uses of that area in the town. I think I've covered most of my notes there. The planning board did recommend approval, and staff also recommends approval of the rezoning request. I know Mr. Edwards is here tonight to answer any questions, but I can take any questions you have before I turn it back over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions for Mr. Longino from council? Okay, we'll proceed into public comment. I have one person that has written down to speak on this subject. Is that all we have, is one? Okay, Mr. Hunter Edwards, if you would approach the podium. State your name.
Hunter Edwards.
Okay, sir. You have 30 minutes. Thank you.
Just to let you guys invest in me, I don't look much like a tattoo artist. I try not to on a day-to-day basis. I'm kind of mild. As far as previous jobs were detention officer for Rutherford County and coach at Rutherford County Schools for East High School. As far as that goes, give you a little bit of, I know you guys haven't been able to do, any kind of background on me whatsoever as far as anything like that. But as far as that goes, my dream is to be in one spot for a really long time and to grow with the town, to build a sort of, I would like to say a persona, an attitude, as far as, not just treating it as a tattoo parlor, but an upscale tattoo studio. Somewhere where somebody like me, that's good at art, wasn't great at school, that can go and learn a trade and proceed on to making something of himself, as far as that goes. And I would like to open up to any questions that y'all have about it, about me, myself, or about the business. If there's any concerns, I'm not easily offended. I know it's a gray area there. So if anybody has any questions or comments or anything, I would like to answer them at this time.
Okay, council, any questions for Mr. Edwards?
First of all, I'd like to say I have no association.
Well, I was
I
hoping to
don't-
get
I-
brownie points.
That's
It's a
awesome.
pleasure to meet you. I am, I'm not opposed to tattoo parlors at all. I think it's a great way to display art. I'm not a tattoo person myself, but your shield on your arm has my attention, so that looks
Yeah.
pretty cool. As a Knight of Columbus myself, that draws my attention. But anyways, is this your first time opening a business, or have you been doing this already and have a pretty,
So I apprenticed under Wicked Needle, and that was back in 2019, 2020. So I'm fairly new to the game, but you know I like to. I opened up a business in Shelby, and basically with the landlord and that it was supposed to be a commercial lease, and it was labeled as a residential, and there was a zoning issue there. And so I was not able to, so this is, you know, I was looking for this place in particular and first, and it kind of come available, and to me it was kind of, you know, fate, or, you know, if you believe in, you know, God, you know, maybe God's purpose of pushing me there, so.
So if it's approved at some point, how many artists are you talking about having on staff, or is it just going to be solely you?
So it's me and I have one apprentice, Trevante Falls. So he's learning. He's been learning for about 3-4 months. So they normally go through a year-long apprenticeship program, which is basically like it's kind of like community college. You know, you're paying your way, not necessarily in money or anything, but sweat equity. You're paying your way into like an apprenticeship, like if you were to apprenticeship under an electrician or anything else. So I don't know how many people. I'm thinking for me it's maybe 4 employees max. Me and my wife run the business, so she's my boss, and she tells me, she does all my scheduling and all that, all the paperwork.
Yeah, and the reason I ask that is because there's very limited street that what would be considered parking, and I'm not sure how the parking would work out even for customers. And
So, from my understanding, Mr. Longino and I and Abdul, the person that owns La Belle Vita, and Adam Smith, I believe that's his last name. We discussed that there would need to be parking up front, and any overflow parking would either be pushed to the back of the building, as far as like we do gravel around the actual building, because there's enough space to fit, you know, like there's plenty of clearance for a car there, or either overflow parking into the La Belle Vita. But I don't know exactly how that's going to work out, but I do know that I try not to make any kind of intrusion on anybody else's as far as parking or traffic. So if anything were to happen as far as like somebody parking on the side of the street and that, you know, we would tell them to go move and that.
But it's by schedule only, right? So you'll have scheduled clients, so you'll know who's coming in and out.
So most of it's scheduled clients, and but we do accept walk-ins once we open.
Okay.
Right now, with the situation where I had to move shops and that, I'm on overflow, and I'm only one person, so I'm booked up until about August. So if this is, you know, it's kind of a bad thing on me, you know, if something doesn't go through, you know, because now I'm met with backup. But as far as like if everything does go through, I'll be booked up till about August. So, and then after August, we'll look to accept walk-ins. We also offer piercings, and we'll probably do like non-laser tattoo removal at some point. As far as where that goes, as far as you know, there's a lot of people that made a lot of dumb decisions when they were younger. I know I was one of them. So
What are your hours gonna be?
my hours we're looking at shooting for 12 to 8, I like to get to bed early. I got 2 kids, so we try to close at 8, and maybe on Saturdays close at 9. But nothing later than 9, I would say. I think that's the scheduled hours that me and my wife discussed.
This will be a question for Justin. The property next door would be R10,
Yes, sir.
still be R10, so there would still be residential right next door.
Yes, sir. So I think we discussed in the previous planning that I was personally wanting to make like a hedge line there, or either put up a fence, a privacy fence, just to give the neighbors, you know, a sense of separation between us.
That would be a requirement, would it not?
Yes, sir. That's why he has to go for the variance, the Board of Adjustments. There's a footage requirement, and because the adjacent parcels are residential.
Sidebar, from April of 1965 till October of 1966, I actually lived in that house. I did.
Well, I'll do it justice.
Okay, any further questions for Mr. Edwards?
I'm pleased to hear your backlog. That's a great testament to the service and the business that you're running.
Thank you, sir.
As far, and you know, the requirements for creating some privacy between the residential and this business, are there any discussions with the current property owner on, you know, curb appeal? And when I hear upscale, it's like, okay, you're doing a great quality product, but I also hear curb appeal too. It's like, what's that look like? Because as Tommy
So-
alluded to, it's an old house.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So, you know, as far as we're gonna do a little bit of what I like to call kitchen magician magic on it. You know, we're gonna throw a big nice metal sign, put some backlights behind it, and you know, like I like to laser etch, you know, my sign, and actually on that space where it has the window up top. I plan on boarding that off so it's a single wall, and then putting the metal sign on top of that. What I plan on doing is taking, putting the accessible, handicap accessible ramp on the side of the building up front. So, you know, everybody's able to do it, able to get in and out of there. Definitely change the door as far as that goes. And as far as like once Mr. Smith does the paving of the parking lot, I think that the signage is going to be sort of out of the way. I'd like to do mostly everything on the sign, and do some like backlighting on top of the roof, like underneath the gutters and that.
Okay.
So it kind of lights up the house, and you know that it's there. So it's not just kind of hid away in a corner, but I don't want to, you know, overpower to where it's a nuisance to anybody else.
Excellent.
Okay, thank
Sounds
you.
like you put a lot of thought into it. Appreciate that.
And the sidewalk would be required too, correct? Based on, oh, well, yeah, you gotta close this public hearing before we vote.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Edwards. We will close the public hearing, 7:04. Okay, we have several options to proceed, council. Motion to approve the rezoning request, motion to deny rezoning request, or table for consideration at a later date. And we're talking about changing the zoning from B1 to B2.
So based on the recommendation of the planning board and the staff, I recommend that we approve the rezoning request.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Green, a second from Councilmember Edwards. Any further discussion? Okay, so we shall move to the vote. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? No. So that's unanimous, Mr. Saldo. Okay, we also need a motion to adopt a consistency statement.
And that's pertaining to the previous zoning, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I so move. I make that in form of a motion.
Okay, we have Councilmember Thomas making that in a motion. Do we need to read that motion?
If you would, please.
Okay. So Councilmember Thomas is making a motion to move that council approve the rezoning request at 242 North Main Street from B1 to B2 as it is consistent with the surrounding area and beneficial for business development in the area. So do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Gant. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none, that passed unanimously. Okay. We have, the second item is another rezoning request. This is for 108, 109 Mashon Avenue. I will open the public hearing at 7:06. Call on Mr. Longino for staff reports.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Keely Jones has submitted a request to rezone parcels 560 and 561 totaling .67 acres located on Mashon Avenue behind the KFC Taco Bell. So there's a very skinny parcel. There's a map in your packets, but a very skinny parcel behind Taco Bell and then a slightly larger parcel behind that, and she's requesting rezoning of both of those. The current zoning for both is R15 residential. The surrounding zoning is B1 commercial and R15 residential back behind that, with some I1 institutional to the south and west of the property. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to allow for a permanent home for her business. She currently operates Magnolia Mill on North Main Street and is looking to build a permanent home for Magnolia Mill down there. The future land use plan designates this area as future medium-density residential. It shows industrial zoning along the corridor, but due to existing commercial operations in the surrounding vicinity, the rezoning request would be in compliance with the surrounding area and the land use goals for the area. So the staff and planning board recommend approval.
Okay. Before I open for public comment, are there any questions for Mr. Longino?
In the paperwork, page 20, it just says, there's a little typo there. It's still referring to 242 North Main Street instead of 108 in the motion needed section,
Thank you, sir.
just for future, yeah.
Good point.
But no, I think she has a wonderful business established now, and I like the fact that she wants to have a permanent place. And
Any further questions for town manager? Okay. Do we have anyone that would like to comment on this from the public? Okay, hearing none. We will close the public meeting, 7:09. Council, again, your options to consider are motion to approve the rezoning request, motion to deny rezoning request, table for consideration at a later date.
I'll be glad to make a motion to approve the rezoning from R15 to B2.
Second motion.
So a motion from Councilmember Thomas, second from Councilmember Green. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we will move to the vote. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Hearing none, it passed unanimously. Okay, the next item on the agenda, the Tourism Development Authority Board. It's appointment of Mr. Tyler Watts.
Sorry, Mr. Litton, we need a
Consistency statement.
consistency statement
Oh.
for the last.
We said we'd miss one of those, didn't we? Thank you. So we do need to adopt a consistency statement
With the correct address in there. Thank you, Mr.
with the
Thomas.
correct address.
I motion that we move to approve the rezoning request at 108 and 109 Mashon Avenue or from R15 to B2 as it is compatible with the surrounding area and land use goals.
Motion, Councilmember Edwards.
Second.
Second, Councilmember Thomas. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Pass unanimous. Now moving on to Tourism Development Authority Board. Ms. Kim Durham, Chairman of the TDA, recommends that we appoint Tyler Watts to the Boiling Springs Tourism Development Authority Board for a term of 3 years.
So is this coming from Ms. Durham asking for this appointment, or is this an application process where he has filed an application wanting to be a part of the board?
He's not filed a formal application. He's talked to Ms. Duran about serving on the board, and she's gone over with him the requirements and everything, and he's agreeable to that. The bylaws state that if there's a vacancy on the TDA, the council shall appoint someone within 60 days. So that's her recommendation of who to appoint. There was a vacancy that came open in early March. So.
Is Mr. Tyler Watts here to speak today?
I believe so.
Can we invite him up?
He's not here. I'm
He's
sorry.
not here. Okay, I'm sorry.
He is the little bit of background I know for your reference is he's involved in the Broad River Campground that's just over the bridge south of town, and he's also involved in the townhomes across from the Masonic Lodge, the townhome project across from the Masonic Lodge.
Do you know anything else about him? Can you tell us anything else?
Now I know he came for a variance last year for that townhome project, so I've worked with him very briefly on that, but that's all I know.
I know in the past, we've had trouble finding people to serve on these type positions, so I'm staying over for quite a while, so.
Yeah, I told Kim she had 60 days, and I think it was tough to find Tyler to serve on it, to your point, sir. Mm-hmm.
To be clear, he'll be representing the council to the Tourism Development Authority?
No, sir, you all are just the appointing authority for the
Okay.
TDA, so he'll just be
Will not necessarily
another
represent
member of the
legally
TDA.
Okay.
I make a motion, we appoint Mr. Tyler Watts to the Boiling Springs Tourism Development Authority Board for a 3-year term.
And I second.
A motion from Councilman Green, second from Councilman Gant. Any further discussion? Those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Passed unanimous. Okay, next item on the agenda is discuss May budget workshop. And Mr. Longino will take over here.
Thank you, sir. So staff has worked on some of the revisions discussed at last week's budget workshop, and we'd like to request another date be set for the next budget workshop. I still have a few more things to work on, so we were looking at May 24th, which is a Tuesday at 6 p.m. at Town Hall.
I have no objection to that.
Sure does mess up my ladder league pickleball night. Had to get a sub tonight. That's.
Any
sidewalk.
opposition from council on that date? Do we know if Mayor Daniel Thomas can attend?
Checking. He texted me earlier that his son was doing well at the tennis match, and I meant
Yep.
to ask him about the budget workshop date and forgot about it. So, we can, you all can vote on it, and we can adjust it later on if he responds back, or we can come back to it after we discuss the other two items. Up to you.
What's the pleasure of the board? You want to come
Doesn't have
back?
to be a vote, does it? We can just agree. You can't, it doesn't have, we don't need a formal vote, do we?
I don't think you do. Not, you don't have to publicize it or anything, right? This is,
You did.
Oh, it will be a special meeting, yes, sir.
okay.
So we will have to make a
Yeah.
motion.
Yes, sir. He's,
I would motion we table this agenda item until the end of the meeting to give Mayor Daniel a chance to respond to Justin.
I second that.
oh.
Y'all
he can't-
sound like we want
He
him.
can't make it.
He can?
He
or
cannot.
He
That's-
cannot make it.
How about the following Tuesday? I think that's the 31st.
That's Memorial Day week.
Another ladder leak.
That's Tuesday after Memorial Day, right?
Okay, is it?
Yeah. Memorial Day's 30th.
Yeah. That one. I will be coaching a baseball game. I
Doesn't
won't
have to be a
available.
Tuesday either, does it?
Yeah, what other days the week of the 23rd, 24th work for you all? Thursday or?
Yes, Thursday.
Thursday works for me. I'll make any day. I'll make my day work.
What about Monday? Because, we might have to have other revisions or something, and we're running out of time. If we shot it back to Monday the 23rd, that would give more time to consider the budget and tweak it if anything else needs to be changed. But I guess two or 3 days doesn't really make that big a difference, but maybe it would.
Monday works for me.
Unfortunately,
6.
no. I'm double booked already. On the
So-
23rd.
So Monday's out, Tuesday's out,
26th?
Wednesday's
30th?
out, so we're looking at Thursday.
It works for me.
Thursday, the 26th. You're waiting on Mayor Thomas.
That's right.
Okay.
Tell him when we're having it. Tell him if he wants to be there. Come on.
We have a motion to table it in a second. We can just, to the end of the meeting, we can just go ahead and vote on that and come back to it,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Or, he's typing, I'm sorry. That should work, he says. Okay.
I say that should work.
If you just-
Okay. I'll retract my motion, if I can.
Okay, so, yeah, that's fine.
Is that
You'd have to
acceptable?
withdraw a second.
I can withdraw my second, yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'll motion that we have our May budget workshop on Thursday, May 26th at 6 PM at Town Hall.
A motion from Councilmember Edwards,
Second.
second from Councilmember Gant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none, it passed unanimous.
Mayor Thomas says thank you.
Okay, the next item is future outdoor events. Mr. Longino.
Thank you, sir. So I think we've all heard a lot of positive comments about Webstock, and the suggestion's been floating around that we do a sort of a smaller version in the town-owned parking lot and maybe the Turner parking lot between Talk of the Town and the Broad River office. Something like a smaller stage with a band, a food truck, and a beverage garden area. It sounds like everybody's supportive of that idea. Staff is supportive of that idea. We started to look at dates for that and wanted to make sure that we were, I guess, all on the same page for when we should do that. We wanted to make sure that students at Gardner Webb would be in attendance, or school would be in session at Gardner Webb, and the same with making sure that parents would be in town if there was a any travel or anything with the local Cleveland County schools. So our idea was to look at maybe an August time frame, some sort of like around back to school time, or maybe September. Just wanted to run that by you all, and didn't want you to think that we weren't going to do it because we were going to push it back so far. And our initial thought had been sort of a summer concert or something, but we also want to make sure people show up. So
Have you checked the weather?
not yet. If you'll narrow it down for me, I'll make sure we get a warm day.
Tommy, you're in the wrong profession if you can forecast that far.
When will college actually start? Sometime mid-August? So it'd be probably sometime after the 13th, probably.
Do we do anything for Labor Day weekend, like in the summer fall festival type attraction at all? Does Gardner Webb do anything like that?
We have in the past, been a long time. We used to have fall fling. That's when we were in the old town hall. Have a band out front and hamburgers and hot dogs. That's been a long time ago. See, I'm the old member here.
Well, I think this would be a great opportunity to partner with Gardner Webb again if we are looking at that time period when the students are returning. And it just continues to build on our partnership there. I know it's a very busy time for the university as well with their in-house events, so it might be problematic to try to plan something, but I think it would be a great opportunity to continue that partnership. But I'm for having it earlier than August as well, if that's something that can be pulled off. I think the better off, if we could get it sooner, we could carry the momentum we already have, and then we could continue making improvements and continue into maybe the fall, and then that's just my idea.
Maybe there's a week or weekend where freshmen come in with their parents to Gardner Webb, and we can really showcase the town as well. I mean, they're already coming to Gardner Webb, but
Sure.
we can drive that word of mouth marketing that is so invaluable, especially to the new class coming in. If we can coordinate something like that
Yeah.
too.
Okay. Yeah, we can get with Gardner Webb and see what events they have going on and see if there's a date that might work. Okay.
August 13th.
That's not to say we don't have students around in the summer and the board for the driving on terrible. We omit that for the
But I think to the point, we do want to cater to that and really showcase the rest of the town, and our great partnership with Gardner Webb as well, so.
That's a good idea.
Although I do agree with Marty, that we don't want to wait too long while the momentum and the excitement is there. So possibly, I'm just talking off the top of my head, while we do always want to partnership with Gardner Webb, we could possibly have, one midsummer just for the town and then plan a bigger one for Gardner Webb.
Yeah.
I have not heard any complaint. I've not heard one complaint about Webstock, not one, except the weather. And I probably was the one who complained about it. But has anybody? I've not heard.
No.
I did not hear a complaint. I didn't hear a complaint.
Positive, all positive.
We did have somebody who, I think one person who objected to the beer garden prior to it, but I made a point to go there, and mingle there. I didn't see anybody out of place. I don't know if the police chief did or not. I didn't hear anybody saying a ill word or anything. I was very impressed and very pleased with the way everybody conducted themselves.
Well, I know that Cleveland County used to have a community calendar. Was that through the Uptown Shelby Association or something? I mean, if we're going to do a smaller event, I hope that we can reach out to, Shelby and Cleveland County, just make sure that we're not going to have a bunch of events going on at the same time. Sometimes that hurts our numbers.
true.
But I know the Legion baseball comes in around the 1st of August there to Shelby High School, and just be sensitive to those things and reach out to as many partners as we can to try to make a big splash and a huge success.
So we can look at a back to school event, and I think that's a good idea, Mr. Thomas. Why don't we check the calendars for this summer and see if there's a free weekend somewhere where we can kind of plug ourselves in and say we're going to do something this weekend, and we'll give it a shot. I think it'd be a fairly inexpensive event, especially on a smaller scale. So I think that's something we could pull off relatively easily. We'll check it out.
Your comment about American Legion Baseball, though, makes a great idea, though. Maybe there's a way we could partner with them, we sponsor something, and they do some marketing for us or something like that, too, so.
I think one of the teams actually normally stays in the motel.
And we also have the softball
Yes.
that comes in too.
Well,
That's the
Are
first.
they coming back?
no, they're not coming. The state playoffs will not be.
Okay,
It'll be somewhere else.
okay.
They tried to get it, they weren't too open to, if somebody else wanted to have it, they weren't too open to going back to the same place.
Gotcha.
I think we need that North Carolina fellow planner on July 2nd so they can plan all this, Justin.
I agree with that.
But I guess that's the other question. We have the committee in place to be able to deal with that, or the events committee?
We don't, but that'd be something that the people we're reaching out to,
Okay.
we'd ask for their help with.
Because that's a lot of work on the staff and
Yeah,
then
it is.
the police department and utilities, everything in between. So we just, we want things, but we also don't want to overburden our workforce and, make it happen as well.
Okay?
Yeah.
Does that give you
It does, sir. Thank you.
good enough direction? Okay? All right, thank you. We'll move on to the next item. Discussion of future ABC referendums. Mr. Longino.
Thank you, sir. So we discussed this briefly at our planning retreat, that one of the objectives would be for us to look at putting liquor by the drink on the ballot this fall. Staff has done a little bit of preliminary investigation into what it would take to do that. And the question I really wanted to ask you all tonight is, are we interested in mixed beverage, which is what they statutes call liquor by the drink? So are we interested in mixed beverage and the possibility of an ABC store? Because those are two separate votes. Are we just interested in mixed beverage and not an ABC store? Before we start planning and looking at what those different options might look like, I wanted to revisit that, because we didn't talk about a store at the retreat. We just talked about mixed beverage in general, and I didn't want to assume one way or the other. There were preferences.
Yeah, and I think before I was on the council discussion, there seemed to be some confusion about thinking we had to have an ABC store. We do not, do we?
You do not have to have it, no. That, no, it is, because the county has ABC board, restaurants and establishments will, purchase their alcohol from the county.
And I do know that I think the county's having a vote by beer and wine countywide.
Yeah.
It's on the ballot, I think.
But if you do have a store, there's some other logistics involved or required, talking about profit sharing and how the money, kind of merging with the county board, I mean, how that would play out, and I don't know specifics on what that looks like, but you do have to have some details ironed out.
We'd have to have an officer too, would we not? And a law enforcement officer.
I don't know that it's necessarily required, but the statute talks about, it says, talks about a plan regarding distribution of profits, and there's statutory references there, and then just, I guess, just overall what that would look like. But it speaks more to profits than it does, and maybe this other statutory reference talks about officers. I'm not sure, but it could be. But there's things like that. So I think the plan or the idea would be that if Justin knew kind of which way you wanted to go. If you didn't want the ABC store, then that makes it really simple. If you do, that's fine too. It just he has some other administrative things to consider.
So there wouldn't be any there wouldn't be any monetary incentive for the town if we didn't have an ABC store. We wouldn't get any revenue.
No, you would. I mean, if you did, it would be a profit sharing kind of a
Through the county.
From the county.
the town would, I think, as I understand it, would get some degree of the profits. How that negotiates out and what's standard and things like that, I'm not sure. But it wouldn't all 100% go to the county, is my understanding. So that's correct. Yeah. So the town would benefit theoretically would benefit financially if they had a store. Assuming the store made money, right?
Another question, if we just went with liquor by the drink vote, does that mean that if later 3 or 4 years we decide we want an ABC store, then we have a referendum on the ABC store then, or is there a one-shot deal?
No, you have to wait. Yeah, you could have one in the future for the store.
On the other side of the table, does it hurt to pass the referendum? That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have an ABC store, right? We still would have to have an interested party to open one up here in Blue Ridge Springs.
Well, not an ABC store. It would be the state would actually operate. I mean, an individual can't operate an ABC store.
Right. It would be then that all comes in with the county. I don't know the logistics of the nitty gritty of how the store would open. But when it comes to the sharing of the profits, that's a county town relationship.
But it also has to support itself, does it not? It has to be self-supporting.
Right. Yeah.
I guess that's my point. Is just
Yeah.
because we passed the referendum to have one does not necessarily mean we will get one
Or keep one.
or keep one.
Yes.
I was under the impression it's more like a public-private partnership where
It's all,
it's
it's
privately owned, but you have a very strict partnership with the public
Well, I
entity.
don't think in North Carolina, some
Not North
states are like
Carolina.
that.
South Carolina's that
I
way,
don't think North
not North
Carolina.
Carolina.
Okay,
Yeah,
it is completely owned by the county.
yes.
And there's a board that oversees it.
And I think in our previous discussions, so when we added the beer and wine, there was a formula, something about the population size is why they had gone away from, and some of the discussion about not doing the liquor by the drink in the ABC store at that time. So, I don't know. There could be some kind of formula that the county ABC board or somebody uses to establish whether we would even be eligible to have an ABC store or not.
What would, my other consideration is if we go the full route, mixed drink and ABC store, that's a pretty big leap from where we currently are right now. And I'm gonna ask the rest of the council, like, what is your sense of the appetite of the town for making that big leap? Do we need to take smaller baby steps by just starting with mixed drinks, and then in the future, as the data shows that, hey, there's an interest here, then maybe we can, in the future, review and accept an ABC?
I kind of agree with that. You know, I don't know that we would want to do all that at once. I don't know it'd be prudent for us to do it all at once.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
So, I mean, and really, the people have to vote it to start with.
Right. I mean, it has
You
to
know,
go
all
on
we're,
the
all
ballot.
would be doing would be put the ballot out and allow the people to make that decision. Although I do think, you know, we wouldn't want to just put something out there that we just thought was not prudent.
Right.
And if you put two things that are similar in nature on the ballot, you might cause confusion and not get an accurate collection
True.
of data, so.
That's a good point.
I would be
personally
more in
leaning-
favor of the route of just liquor by the drink, no ABC store. And as things progress, if we come back to see, as
When we initially discussed putting beer and wine on the ballot, we said we would start there, see how it went, and then move forward slowly. So I would be in favor of moving slowly, concurrence with Mr. Green, but I don't hear a lot of people say anything about it, to be honest with you. And since we passed beer and wine, we have one bar.
but we do have a lot of beer and wine sales.
We do. We do in stores, but we only have one bar. So the growth is fairly slow.
I'm in favor of putting it on the ballot, see what, if people want it, they vote it in, if they don't, they vote it out, and we move on.
Do you need a motion from us, Justin?
The consensus is to just put mixed beverages on the ballot. We'll come back with a resolution and have you all formally approve it, but
Okay.
just wanted to get some
And I'm-
direction.
You didn't want
I
to do all
perfect-
the extra legwork for it not to be.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of allowing the people to speak if they
Yep, absolutely.
for it or against it. So
If they're
I'd be in
against it,
favor.
it's 3 years. It'll be a 3-year, kind of a wait, in essence, before moratorium, before he could bring it back for, that particular.
I think that's perfectly
Say
reasonable.
that again, John?
This is if it's denied or if it's not voted for, then, it's not a yearly thing. You'd have to wait 3 years to get it back on the ballot.
I think
It's
that's
fine,
a
it's-
reasonable time.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Further discussion. Councilmember Gant, did you have anything?
Yeah, I totally agree with them too, and, I guess we're just voting here to see, or voting to get it on the ballot.
Just to give me some direction, we'll come back with a formal resolution.
because
and
if we're-
put it on the ballot at that point.
Yeah, because if we're thinking maybe trying to get her some nicer restaurants around, that's about the only way that they're gonna come, something nice is gonna come, that if we can do, mixed beverages for the drink.
Okay.
Yeah. I do think that strengthens when we go looking for new business. That gives us
Exactly.
something else that might just be the thing that entices them.
Well, that's the biggest complaint I hear, is we don't have any really nice, we've got a nice Italian restaurant, but we don't have a nice steakhouse or, you know,
Well, we gotta go get them.
this may be a start.
Okay, Mr. Longino, I think, do you have what you need on that? Okay.
Thank you.
No further discussion? All right, we'll move on to the next item. Discussion of future of B1 zoning. Mr. Longino.
Thank you, sir. So I mentioned this earlier under Mr. Edwards' rezoning, that we changed B1 and B2 when we adopted the new UDO. Since then, we've had a few cases like Mr. Edwards, and we've had some developers inquire about specific parcels around town, and in particular thinking about the old credit union south of town and the 1 acre parcel that's right next to it. I had a developer call me one day, was interested in that. I told him it would have to be rezoned, but that it was just a formality to come into compliance with the new UDO, and he basically said, okay, thanks for your time. So it's, you know, I'm not sure the extent that scared him away unless there were other factors, but like I said, we've had several things happen that have made me look a little bit further into doing sort of a broad rezoning. So the idea is we would, Mr. Saldo's been working on identifying current B1 parcels that would pretty much fall under the B2 category under the new UDO. But we would take that list of parcels, send out letters and say, you know, dear property owner, we're looking to bring these properties into compliance with our new UDO. We'd like to offer to take your parcel through a rezoning process with some other parcels to kind of clean things up. And if you're agreeable, we'll do that. This is what it'll look like, and it'll hopefully be advantageous for both the town and the property owner. So really, that's the idea, and wanted to know what you all thought about that. I think with sending out letters to people saying that we're thinking about changing your property is never received positively, regardless of how the letter is written. So there could be a large crowd after that letter's sent out, but wanted to run the idea past you all first to sort of proactively do that so that we helped everybody involved, I think.
Makes perfect sense to me.
How would we pay for, or how would we charge for this?
Our thought is that it would all be on one application. So if we sent out letters and said, if you want to do this, let us know. We'll put it all in one application, and then it'll go through, and we wouldn't charge for it. So this would be
Okay.
kind of the incentive to allow people to do it, and it would be fairly easy since it would all go through at one time, and there wouldn't have to be extra meetings or anything like that. So.
2 questions.
Mhm.
What does the planning board have to say about this so far? What's their perception and thoughts on this?
We haven't asked him yet. We're going to ask him at the meeting in 2 weeks, I believe.
Okay.
It is.
Second one is, I think you kind of touched on it, but what's the incentive for people to say, yeah, I'm on board? How's it benefit them better?
It's really more beneficial for someone who has something for lease, like has a building for lease on the property, or has a vacant parcel that they're looking to develop. If KFC, for instance, is zoned B1, there's no incentive for them to rezone to B2. It doesn't really help anybody. They're grandfathered in under the old UDO with that use. But if you have a vacant parcel like the acre parcel next to the credit union, or some of the parcels that are for development off of East Homestead, that'll help a developer be more comfortable and not have to go through those rezoning proceedings. If the use falls under B2 and it's allowed by right, they can come in, purchase the property, and pretty much just get to work.
One less formality for them. It's an attraction.
Yeah,
Just removes one little stumbling block there,
yeah, that's right.
which I think we should remove all we can.
That's true.
Well, from our standpoint, Gardner Webb was proactive last year or so that,
Yeah,
you know,
last year.
they came in, and David Waycaster was instrumental in trying to clean up some of the zoning so that it would be uniform and consistent. And I think the approach here would be the same, to try to make it uniform and consistent. So.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll get to work on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to council manager reports. So up first is Mr. Longino.
Thank you, sir. I don't have but a couple things to update you on, just real quick. So Mayor Thomas had asked me the other day if I'd heard from DOT about the protected left turn at this traffic light. I have not, but I did send them a follow-up email on yesterday, I believe it was. So waiting to hear back about that still. And I have met with the YMCA and went over some changes to the YMCA agreement that I need to send to the YMCA subcommittee for us to review before the June meeting. So I'll have that forthcoming, but I believe that's all I had in my notes. Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sweppy?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Council Member Edwards?
I would just like to revisit and keep on our radar the traffic ordinance discussion. I know we got a lot on our plate here in this quarter. As we finish up our budget planning and locking that in for our new fiscal year, I'd like to revisit that. I will be digging into that ordinance myself a little more and talking with you on the side, Justin, about some of the opportunities that may need to be relooked at. The example that I keep referring to is in many of our neighborhoods, we don't have sidewalks or curbs, and there's not good pedestrian protection. And we've had long discussions about people speeding and how to control that. But in the end, we need to protect our pedestrians a little better. So if there's a way that we can encourage that through modifying the current traffic ordinance, I would like to revisit that.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council Member Thomas?
Yeah, just one question. What happened to the development down on South Main that was going to be townhomes? We rezoned that for townhomes. Was there any other, I guess, plats or anything submitted, anything moving forward on that?
Not yet. They did request probably 3 months ago now, sort of a letter that they could send to developers that says that it's zoned for this and it's ready to be developed. So I haven't heard anything since then, though.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council Member Gant?
I just want to thank Mr. Edwards for coming out tonight and talking to us and telling us a little bit about his background and his plans. And we're always looking for new businesses, so kind of excited about that. And also, I'm excited about our planning our activities as far as like what we were talking about, partnering with Gardner Webb as far as having groups and kind of get-togethers, starting maybe this summer and then going into the fall. I think that's going to be a really great thing. I really do. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Council Member Green?
I'd just like to add my word of appreciation to the Public Works and the Police Department for all they do. Good example of that today. My wife had me dig out a couple of old flower pots from under the house, and they still had some dirt in them, some old weeds in them. She took them out to the street and dumped them. I said, they're probably not going to pick those up for two reasons. One ain't there not enough of them, and the other one is they're not going to see them. Within an hour, she said, she was outside, she said, come here. The truck was in the front of the house picking them up. So they might not should have done that, because now she's going to do that more often. But I hear that constantly, and I've tried to share those with the staff every time I hear them about how diligent they are about the hard work, and I'm amazed at how much they can do with such a small staff. Police department, they put their lives out there every day for us, and we need to really thank those. And I think maybe we're a little too quick to go by, because I don't think the council adopted those resolutions, which I think we probably should have.
I think you're correct. We did not adopt those resolutions. I failed to make a motion.
But
We'll correct that.
But like I say, I just appreciate your attitude and how you go about your work every day. And I know you don't get near enough praise, and I know you don't make enough money.
Okay, I'd like for council to consider adopting the proclamations for Public Works Recognition Week and Police Recognition Week that were read earlier.
I move that we adopt the resolutions that were so.
Motion, Councilman Green.
I'll second that.
Second, Councilmember Edwards. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, unanimous. Thank you for pointing that out. Was that all, Councilman?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I will call on myself as council member. I did serve as Mayor Pro Tem tonight in absence of Mayor Thomas's, could not be here. He went to watch his son play potentially his last tennis game. So we all encouraged him to go because family is very important. And we have a great council, we have a great staff, and I would like to thank each of you. And I would like to thank everyone for putting up with me. I did have a few omissions. I have not ran council meetings here before, so I thank you for being patient with me.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I also want to thank staff for putting in the information about the ordinance for picking up pet waste. I read that, and I had it on the counter to bring with me, but that, along with a few other things, I can't seem to get out of the house with all the time. But I do appreciate you trying to educate citizens that, hey, that's important, and it is an ordinance. And I thank all of you. Do we have any other comments from council or staff? Okay, we entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll call the end of the meeting at 7:46.
Good job. Excellent work.
He gave you mine, which is fine. Because
Taking the analog one there.
no, I like the hair.
Okay.
Thanks for helping me catching some things. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just,
You did good.
I think I got in warp speed there at the first, and I can't
I still can't figure out.
You're welcome. Thank
think
you.
of three things. Yes, sir. Thank you for
both
coming
my
out.
brothers have sleeves and tattoos, and I never can figure out what I want because it's gonna be something. But no, yeah, thank you.
Sir,
We're excited for you get the variants or whatever that you need to do on those things and keep on rolling.
Good job, Pat.
Mr. Longino, or they would know when the next planning.
Yeah,
they meet the week before we meet.
So it's 3 weeks.
Isn't that right? Or 2 weeks before we meet? That, Pat, planning board,
How are you?
board of
Good?
adjustments.
hold on, I can tell you.
Come on up, yeah. That's Josh. What's happening today?
Buzz, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. It's good to see you. Everybody good? Yeah. Still at Clearwater? What you got?
Thank you.
I was talking about you today. I was about tired of working.
I think it's the
probation for all.
third
I
chief.
said, I'm gonna go get me a job at Clearwater. I said, I wonder if Josh.
Third
still
chief.
works.
Everybody else is.
Yeah.
Richie's working up there now.
Good job.
Thank you.
I'm headed to
It's got to be an easy,
baseball
real
game
easy
starting at
job.
7.
'Cause I'm
Okay,
old
good
and-
luck. Go Chargers.
Go Chargers.
But you told me
Okay.
that like years ago,
Okay.
you're like, yeah, I'm third shift. I
said-
sit there, the machine stops, I hit stop, I clear the jam and start it back. I'm like,
Probably 80% of the stuff.
that sounds like something like
Trainer
it.
up there for about 3 years now.
Cool. So are you here with Hunter?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, both my brothers are tattooed up, and I've always been, first of all, afraid. Second of all, Tina told me years ago, she said, "You get a tattoo, I'm gonna break up with you." And now that we're together like 30 years, I asked her the other day, so I'm gonna go get me a tattoo, or are you still gonna break up with me? She said, "Well, I'll think about it." That'd be an easy way out for her, right?
Yeah.
But no, I miss seeing all you guys. I hardly get to do anything except work. So.
We had a little family dinner today before this. More than ever over here. More than a kid.
Okay, cool. But Hunter's just a friend.
Yeah. He's done a few of my tattoos.
Okay. Well, I hope he can pull it off. Like I said, when I started seeing in that wording, it said upscale tattoo stuff. And that has, because like I said, I know there's some really good tattoo places.